Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science or truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. This show is in both Hindi and English. So for those of you who wanted to hear Ankit in Hindi is also here. So you can have both the languages. Sattology यानी सत्य का विज्ञान या सत्य की पढ़ाई. मिथोलॉजी मतलब झूठ का विज्ञान, झूठ की पढ़ाई या नकली या फिर काल्पनिक उसकी पढ़ाई या उसका विज्ञान. तो अंकित के साथ हम लोग बहुत विषय में बात करेंगे. यू ऑल नो ही इज अ PhD and he used to teach at IIMs and he's getting very popular in India on different shows because of his rich content. So if you want to follow him, you can follow Twitter at Ankit ATIIM, ANKIT on Twitter. You can see all his latest comments over there. So let us welcome Ankit Shah. Welcome, Ankit.
नमस्कार.
Namaskar. So Ankit, what is going on today, Hindenburg and Adani.
Hindenburg report.
Hindenburg report and Adani. And Adani took back its FPO. And then suddenly there is means like when he had an FPO, then also there was trouble because of the report. And when he withdrew it, then also there is a trouble. So what is actually going on?
So we have to understand कि यहाँ पे background में बहुत सारा geopolitics work हो रहा है, right? So one of the primary reason why the way colonization happened under Britain as a colonial power. So when they realized, Britain, that India and China jointly produced more than 50% of the world GDP, तो वो ढूंढने आए कि ऐसी कौन सी कंट्री है जहां पे इतना सारा गोल्ड पड़ा है, ऐसी कौन सी कंट्री है जो ऐसा टेक्सटाइल हमें बेचती है और जो हम नहीं बना सकते, ऐसे स्पाइसेस हमें देती है जो हम नहीं उगा सकते. So they set out in search of India, right? तो उसमें पोर्चुगीज आ गए, डच आ गए, ब्रिटिश आ गए, ये सारे एक के बाद एक they started searching India. And as we all know that the first East India Company was, established in Surat as a port. So they realized that geopolitics and geoeconomics is about who controls the trade routes. And Indian Ocean has always been the pivot of global economics. जिसके control में Indian Ocean है, right? They are going to have a lot more say in the international trade. ठीक है? तो the Europeans devised a policy. They conquered the important islands and the port cities, the entry and exit points of the waters of these two countries, and then they slowly subdued India and China. They got the raw materials from here, sourced it back over there. वहाँ British factories में, European factories में produce किया 1,000 times more, and then they started selling. This is exactly how India and China's GDP from more than 50% came down to 5%. ठीक है? तो यही पॉलिटिक्स अभी भी उतना ही वैलिड है, राइट? बिकॉज द इंडियन ओशन होस्ट ट्रांसफर ऑफ मोर देन 90% ऑफ द ऑयल, गैस, रिसोर्सेज, रॉ मटेरियल्स, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. अभी भी वही पोजीशन है. तो इसमें अदानी जी जो है, बिकॉज इंडिया डज नॉट हैव अ ब्लू वाटर नेवी, बिकॉज वी आर नॉट इकोनॉमिकली एट दैट स्टेज, तो बहुत सारा सेंस बनता है कि इंडिया वुड push for a green paper economy since you don't have instant blue water navy. तो अदानी जी ने बिल्कुल वैसे जैसे यूरोपियंस उस जमाने में आए थे ढूंढने और फिर पोर्ट सिटीज पे कंट्रोल किया, पोर्ट प्रोजेक्ट्स लिए, एंड देन दे स्लोली इन्फ्लुएंस द ट्रेड रूट्स एंड द सी लेन्स. तो अदानी जी जो है वो पोर्ट्स प्रोजेक्ट में जब से आए हैं तब से टारगेट होना शुरू हुए हैं. ठीक है? So globally, that is how the geopolitics works. So India and China, they are encircling each other in the Indian Ocean, just as Europeans did so many years back. तो अदानी जी ने श्रीलंका में कोलंबो पोर्ट, अभी कुछ दिन पहले हाइफा में इजराइल में पोर्ट प्रोजेक्ट, राइट? म्यांमार में सिटवे पोर्ट रेडी है. बांग्लादेश के साथ जो सेपा साइन हुआ है उसमें भी मल्टी मोडल ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉरिडोर की बात हो रही है. उसके सिवाय कलादान प्रोजेक्ट टिल म्यांमार। तो ये सारे कनेक्टिविटी के जो प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, these have too much of geopolitical importance. तो जब से अदानी जी पोर्ट्स प्रोजेक्ट्स में आए हैं, तब से ही हैज बिकम द पॉइंट ऑफ फोकस। नाउ वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट देयर आर सो मेनी फाइनेंशियल एंटिटीज इन द वर्ल्ड, स्पेशली यूएस बेस्ड, जो बहुत सारा जियोपॉलिटिक्स कंट्रोल करती है। ये सारी कंपनीज के लिए कंट्रीज जो होती हैं, इट्स लाइक अ पोर्टफोलियो। आज उनको यूएस में प्रॉफिट दिखता है तो यूएस इज द वर्ल्ड पावर। कल को उनको इंडिया में प्रॉफिट दिखेगा तो दे विल मेक इंडिया ग्लोबल पावर, राइट। परसों उनको रशिया में प्रॉफिट दिखेगा, जब आर्कटिक मेल्ट होना शुरू होएगा, देन दे विल मेक रशिया ग्लोबल पावर। तो इनके लिए कंट्रीज जो होती है, इट्स लाइक अ पोर्टफोलियो ऑफ प्रॉफिट्स, ठीक है, इन्वेस्टमेंट व्हीकल। तो आपको समझ में आएगा कि बहुत सारा अनइजीनेस है बिकॉज ऑफ इंडियाज जियोपॉलिटिकल मूव्स इन द सी लेन्स। जैसे इजिप्शियन प्रेसिडेंट अभी रिपब्लिक डे सेलिब्रेशन के लिए आए थे, तो सुएज कैनाल के पास दे आर गिविंग एन एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक एरिया फॉर इंडिया टू बिगिन सम ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट्स। तो आप देख सकते हैं कि ये जो जियोपॉलिटिकल मूव्स हो रहे हैं, दैट इज कॉजिंग सम काइंड ऑफ एन अनइजीनेस वर्ल्ड वाइड। तो उसकी वजह से अदानी जी को पर्टिकुलरली टारगेट किया गया है, और उसके लिए यूज किया गया वन इज हिंडनबर्ग रिपोर्ट, ऑब्वियसली, जो सबको पता है। द रिपोर्ट इज सो जुवेनाइल, आफ्टर सम मिनट्स विल गो थ्रू what all nonsense juvenile allegations that are there in the report. But one is this. Second is the way the Credit Suisse as one of the financial entity worked this entire sabotage thing. And third thing is about के हमारे इंडिया में इंटरनल जो फैक्टर्स हैं, जिन्होंने भी जो गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट है, जो इंडिया स्टोरी के अगेंस्ट है, वो भी इसमें शामिल थे। सो दिस इज हाउ ऑल ऑफ देम के पुट टुगेदर डिवाइस दिस एंटायर अटैक एंड एग्जैक्टली टाइम्ड इट टैक्टिकली विद एन एफपीओ।
इट मेरे को एक बात समझ में नहीं आती है कि व्हाई पीपल गेट इनसिक्योर। ये वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज हर चीज में इनसिक्योर कैसे हो जाते हैं? लाइक दे नीड एनिमी टू सर्वाइव, ऐसा है ना? हमारे यहाँ लोग दाल चावल खा के आराम से पूरी जिंदगी निकाल सकते हैं, लेकिन ये लोग को कोई दुश्मन चाहिए कहीं ना कहीं पे। तो ऐसा उस रिपोर्ट में क्या है? अगर उसके कुछ पार्ट्स अगर आप पढ़ के बताएं तो इट विल बी वेरी गुड। कि ऐसा उसमें क्या लिखा है जो हिंडनबर्ग रिपोर्ट है, जो दुनिया को मालूम नहीं था पहले?
There is nothing in that which was not put out in public, ठीक है। तो अदानी के जो एफपीओ का प्रोस्पेक्टस था, उसमें देयर इज ऑल इंफॉर्मेशन इन देयर। उसके सिवाय उनका जो प्रोस्पेक्टस और उनका जो एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स है, उसमें ये सारे डिस्क्लोजर्स किए गए। जितने भी एलिगेशंस हैं, वो मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर कवर्ड ऑलरेडी इन द एनुअल रिपोर्ट्स एंड द प्रोस्पेक्टस। सो आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड कि ये लोग क्या नया लेके आए थे। बट द थिंग इज के द इंडियन investor sentiment was affected specifically because of the timing of how Credit Suisse also acted, ठीक है। तो जब 23 जनवरी में कतर ने स्टेक लिया इन क्रेडिट स्विस, बाय द वे क्रेडिट स्विस के बारे में बता दूं कि इसकी खुद की फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ इतनी पतली है, ये खुद आईसीयू में लेटा हुआ है। तो कतर ने जैसे ही 23 जनवरी में इसमें स्टेक लिया क्रेडिट स्विस में, तब से आई थिंक अदानी जी को अलर्ट हो जाना चाहिए था कि ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है। बिकॉज कतर एज अ कंट्री हैज ऑलवेज एक्टेड लाइक अ यूएस डीप स्टेट टूल। तो वो बिल्कुल साबोटाज का चांसेस था, और जो हमने देखा भी। तो सबसे पहले क्रेडिट स्विस ने बड़ा ही पॉजिटिव रिपोर्ट दिया अदानी के बारे में बिफोर द एफपीओ। बट जैसे ही एफपीओ लॉन्च हुआ, तो बिल्कुल इनकॉन्ग्रुएंस विद द इंडियन एंटी नेशनल एलिमेंट्स, जिसको वन ऑफ द रोल वाज ऑफ द कोलकाता, फेमस कोलकाता कार्टेल, जो शॉर्ट सेलिंग के लिए फेमस है, उसके साथ टाइम करते हुए क्रेडिट स्विस ने एफपीओ के दिन ही अदानी के बॉन्ड को 0 रेटिंग दे दिया, ठीक है। तो ये टू साइडेड एलिमेंट्स की वजह से पूरा सेंटिमेंट बह गया of the masses, and then we see the how the stocks were routed, all the Adani stocks, ठीक है। तो both of these together played a role in bringing this entire scenario। और इसमें आपको ये जानना है कि जो हम सनातन इकोनॉमिक्स में बोलते हैं कि जितने भी फैमिली लेड इकोनॉमिक्स यूनिट है, जो गुजरात और राजस्थान स्टेट के बिजनेस फैमिली बिलोंग करते हैं, जैसे अंबानीज हो गए, ठीक है, मित्तल्स, राइट, ये सब एकजुट होके उन्होंने एफपीओ को ओवर सब्सक्राइब करवाया, ठीक है, और यूएई के रॉयल फैमिली ने भी इसमें पार्टिसिपेट करा और एफपीओ फुल्ली सब्सक्राइब हो गया। लेकिन द फैक्ट दैट वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि दिस मच डिफेंस इज नॉट इनफ। जो प्रॉपर चेक पॉइंट्स होने चाहिए थे, जो अलर्टनेस होनी चाहिए थी, दैट वाज प्रोबेबली मिसिंग, एंड दैट आई थिंक दिस हैपेंस विद एवरी न्यू वर्ल्ड पावर विच इज ग्रोइंग अप। तो ये लर्निंग कर्व तो रहेगा, जब अटैक्स होंगे तब आप लर्न करोगे। दिस इज व्हाट आई सी, बट द डैमेज दैट they were trying to inflict was that the Indian financial systems are weak. This is the message they were trying to put across, क्योंकि वो चाहते थे कि एफडीआई का फ्लोज जो है वो कम हो जाए, इंडिया की रेटिंग कम हो जाए। दिस इज व्हाट द ऑब्जेक्टिव मोर देन द अदानी थिंग, राइट? बिकॉज अदानी इज गोइंग टू बाउंस बैक, क्योंकि उनकी बुक्स में कुछ नहीं है ऐसा कि वो बाउंस बैक ना करें। बट द फैक्ट इज कि इंडिया ग्रोथ स्टोरी को बिल्कुल ही ऐसे आप देखोगे कि कतर में जैसे ओलंपिक्स से पहले कतर को बहुत टारगेट किया गया, बिल्कुल वैसे हमारे G20 समिट है इस साल, तो बहुत नेचुरल बनता है कि इंडिया को टारगेट करना एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम, ठीक है। तो ये पूरा टाइमिंग का खेल है जो चला।
तो अगर अभी बजट आया था इंडिया का, और इंडियन नॉमिनल वैल्यू में इक्विवेलेंट अगर कन्वर्ट करें तो 550 बिलियन डॉलर होता है यूएस का। लेकिन अगर पीपीपी में देखें तो इंडिया का बजट आता है करीब 1.3 ट्रिलियन डॉलर्स से थोड़ा ज्यादा आता है, उतना ही आता है। तो इंडिया का फाइनेंशियल कंडीशन अभी कैसा है एज कम्पेयर टू द वर्ल्ड? आप तो पूरी दुनिया को स्टडी करते हैं, तो क्योंकि लोगों को बड़ा अपने उस पर डाउट हो जाता है आजकल।
So Indian economy is the only one, I would say, I would dare say, that does pure economics, which is exactly why people are after us. So we have 65 to 70% of domestic consumption. So we are insulated from the global ups and downs, 65 to 70%, our economy. That much insulated we are, right? But one of the very interesting factor, Adani ji and Ambani ji both, they took loans and debts or raised debts from Western countries, Western markets, at a very low interest rate. And interestingly, they scheduled it in a way जहां पे रीपेमेंट जो बनता है वो 2025 के बाद बनता है। तो ये एग्जैक्टली बैठता है डी डॉलराइजेशन प्रोसेस के साथ। मतलब आज जो उन्होंने सपोज लोन्स कम इंटरेस्ट रेट में उठाई है at the kind of exchange rate that we have vis-a-vis US डॉलर, उसके कंपैरिजन में डी डॉलराइजेशन के बाद जब यूएस डॉलर नीचे आ गया होगा तब वो रीपेमेंट करने वाले थे। आई थिंक बहुत सारे जो डीप स्टेट कंपनीज हैं उनको लेटली समझ में आया कि ये क्या हुआ, एंड प्रोबेबली दैट्स व्हाई ही इज बीइंग अटैक्ड एज वेल। बट वन ऑफ द एनवियस रीजन आल्सो फॉर देम वाज कि जब ये फियाट करेंसी का वेस्टर्न इकोनॉमी का मॉडल जब कोलैप्स होगा तो बहुत ऑब्वियस है कि टॉप 20 टॉप 50 रिच पीपल में ज्यादा से ज्यादा एशियंस होंगे और वेस्टर्न नहीं होंगे, ठीक है। तो अभी से थोड़ा पेट में दर्द होना शुरू हुआ है वेस्टर्न इकोनॉमीज को, एंड विच इज व्हाई यू सी दैट दे आर ट्राइंग टू अटैक द इंडिया ग्रोथ स्टोरी। मैं बिल्कुल भी मानता हूं कि इंडिया इज नॉट अदानी एंड अदानी इज नॉट इंडिया, बट इंडियन स्टेट का इतना तो डिफेंस बनता है कि वो इंडियन फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम्स की इमेज पे जो अटैक हुआ है, एटलीस्ट यू शुड बी एबल टू एड्रेस दैट। यू आर नॉट सपोज टू, देयर इज नो नीड टू कम आउट इन सपोर्ट ऑफ अदानी, हिज बैलेंस शीट विल सपोर्ट हिज बिजनेसेस, बट द इंडियन स्टेट हैज टू प्रिपेयर ऑन सच इंटरनल सैबोटेज। कौन से इंटरनल एलिमेंट्स है जो इसमें इन्वॉल्व थे शॉर्ट सेलिंग के लिए? जैसे अगर मैं आपको एग्जांपल दे दूं, धीरू भाई अंबानी सॉल्व्ड इट वेरी वेल। जब रिलायंस का आईपीओ था तब बिल्कुल ऐसे शॉर्ट सेलिंग की बदमाशी की गई थी, उसको बोलते हैं कोलकाता कार्टेल। तो कोलकाता कार्टेल ने शेयर्स नहीं थे इसके बावजूद सेल किया, एन मास सेलिंग हुई, और आईपीओ के दिन ही रिलायंस का शेयर प्राइस नीचे लेके आए। उसी दिन धीरूभाई अंबानी वाज सो एक्टिव दोस डेज, उन्होंने वेस्ट एशिया के इन्वेस्टर्स का कार्टेल खड़ा कर दिया और उसी दिन सेलिंग से ज्यादा परचेज करवाई। The Reliance shares went up और तब जो सेटलमेंट की सिस्टम थी उस हिसाब से कोलकाता कार्टेल को लॉस हुआ बिकॉज दे हैड टू क्योंकि उन्होंने कम में से सेल कर दिया था. दे हैड टू परचेज एट कॉस्ट एट अ हायर प्राइस. तो धीरूभाई अंबानी मेड एन अपॉर्चुनिटी आउट ऑफ दैट कैलामिटी. that's how active and alert he was. तो जो भी अदानी के या कोई भी पब्लिक कंपनी जब आईपीओ के साथ आती है तो एटलीस्ट 48 आवर्स यू शुड बी एक्टिव इनफ कि अगर कोई ऐसी बदमाशी कार्टेल बना के अगर कोई शॉर्ट सेलिंग की बदमाशी कर रहा है यू शुड बी एबल टू काउंटर एक्ट, राइट. तो ये दिस इज अ लेसन फ्रॉम धीरूभाई अंबानी, राइट. तो दिस इज वन ऑफ द थिंग व्हिच आई नीड टू गो.
धीरूभाई अंबानी के ऊपर मूवी बनी है, गुरुजी, गुरु करके एक मूवी बनी है, एंड इट वाज अ वेरी गुड मूवी. पीपल शुड वॉच इट. इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल मूवी. वन एक चीज, जैसे अभी अमेरिका का कंडीशन आपको मालूम है, इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन क्या चल रहा है, एंड यू हैव डन अ सीरीज ऑफ शोज ऑन दिस चैनल एंड अदर्स आल्सो ऑन डी-डॉलराइजेशन. तो पीपल शुड वॉच इट. हैशटैग डी-डॉलराइजेशन, आपको पूरा ऑन सतोलॉजी चैनल यू कैन सी इट. सो वन क्वेश्चन कम्स इन दैट कि अभी यूक्रेन ने सैंक्शंस इंडिया पे डिमांड किया है, जो कि बच्चे के जैसा है, बट दे हैव डिमांडेड. पीपल आर गोइंग आफ्टर एनीवन हु इज स्ट्रांग इन इंडिया बिकॉज दे फील कि इंडिया में अगर वीक गवर्नमेंट होगी, दे कैन मैनिपुलेट इंडियन मार्केट्स एंड दे कैन डू व्हाट दे वर डूइंग बिफोर. ये भी हो सकता है कि दे में यूटिलाइज, बिकॉज इन सबको ट्रूप्स चाहिए, इंडियन ट्रूप्स चाहिए, मैन पावर. ये लोग अपनी मैन पावर को खपाना नहीं चाहते. उनकी, किसी ने मुझे बताया, एक शो में, यूट्यूब पे शो हो रहा था, दे सेड कि अमेरिका के पास नेट फाइटिंग फोर्सेस यूरोप में सिर्फ 30,000 है, 30 से 40,000. और अमेरिका के जो फोर्सेस है वो सिर्फ 40 से 50,000 या 1 लाख मैक्सिमम जो लड़ सकते हैं आजकल, आज की डेट में. तो टू स्टॉप देम फ्रॉम एक्सपोजिंग, तो वो चाहते हैं कि इंडिया अगर वीक होगा तो उसकी फोर्सेस को एलाय के रूप में यूज किया जा सकता है फॉर वेस्टर्न, है ना. ये सब स्ट्रेटेजी इनका चलता रहता है, बच्चों के जैसा है, क्योंकि आजकल सब दिख जाता है हर जगह यूट्यूब पे. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज द रियल गेम प्लान, कि वर्ल्ड वॉर 3 की तरफ लेके जाना चाहते हैं या नहीं जाना चाहते हैं? आपने पहले शो में बात किया था, या व्हाट इज द गेम प्लान ये अकॉर्डिंग टू दीज पीपल?
So we will have to go back a little bit of history. 1973 में जब Kissinger went to Saudi Arabia and he signed up for an oil for security program जिसमें पूरा क्रूड ऑयल जो है वो डॉलर में सेल होगा और उसके बदले अमेरिका जो है वो गल्फ को सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइड करेगा. ठीक है, इसको डॉलर यहां से डॉलराइजेशन स्टार्ट हुआ. तो हमें यह देखना है कि जिस दिन अफगानिस्तान से यूएस की एग्जिट हुई, ठीक है, उसी मंथ में सऊदी अरेबिया साइंड अ डिफेंस कोऑपरेशन विथ रशिया. तो पूरा डॉलराइजेशन का साइकिल अब रिवर्स हो चुका है. सो आई डू नॉट बिलीव दैट a military conflict is going to be a solution for the de-dollarization which is happening at such a rapid pace. I don't think US military wants a military conflict to stop it, which is exactly why Ukraine का scripted conflict चल रहा है. So I see it as a big faction of the US deep state already aligned with the idea of killing the fiat dollar and creating a pegged dollar. I mean, moving towards a pegged currency kind of a thing. So I do not believe that a military conflict now has any kind of a chance. क्योंकि यूक्रेन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट से यूके और ईयू की इकोनॉमीज और करेंसीज इतनी वीक हो जाएगी that US dollar will be able to sustain itself further, which is exactly, I think, looks like a tacit understanding between Russia, India, China, and US. So I do not see a big world war kind of a thing.
जैसे लोग बात करते हैं, रशिया हेल्प्ड इंडिया इन 1971 वॉर, एंड इन वेयर दे सेंट देयर न्यूक्लियर सब टू व्हेन अमेरिकन्स वर थ्रेटनिंग विद अ न्यूक्लियर स्ट्राइक ऑन इंडिया. तो पीपल आर आस्किंग कि धर्म तो ये बोलता है कि वी शुड आल्सो स्टैंड विद रशिया, लेकिन हम लोग कहीं दिखते नहीं है. ऐसा क्वेश्चंस, मेनी क्वेश्चंस हैव कम लाइक दिस. सो व्हाट डू यू से ऑन दिस?
I do not see, Russia and US or any of the big powers going to, clash for any such reasons, because particularly none of the big powers have attacked any nuclear power till date. वो खाली बातें बनाते हैं. I have never seen any of the big power attacking a nuclear power except India. It's the only country. India is the only country which attacked a nuclear power, which was its neighbor, and openly declared it. I don't think any other power has this kind of a political or a military might to do it. So I do not see any kind of a conflict between the big powers, but I will see a lot of financial conflict coming forward, because once the Asian and the Gulf currencies get pegged to real commodities, the question will be, are we going to accept a fiat dollar or a fiat euro as a valid payment against our actual goods and production? तो आपका कॉस्टको और वॉलमार्ट में जितने भी पूरे जो रैक्स भरे हुए हैं वो शायद खाली हो जाएंगे, because I don't think Asia or Gulf is in any mood to accept an unpegged currency in exchange of real production or commodities. तो एक financial clash तो 100% होना है until the West agrees to peg its currency. उसमें तो कितने months जाएंगे, we are not sure. But when this happens, when this crisis comes, what I foresee is there will be bank runs in the West, और वो start होगा Credit Suisse के collapse के बाद, when people will start realizing that the currency that they hold is fiat backed by nothing, and people will rush with their currencies to the banks in search of getting it exchanged with gold, physical gold. And what the Western banks will tell them is, we don't have any physical gold. Asia and Gulf purchased all the physical gold that we had in our coffers. So I believe the 8,000 tons, which is officially declared by the US government as gold that they have in reserves, that will be used for pegging the currencies. So I don't think that the masses will be getting any share of that physical gold to hold any kind of wealth. So when this bank runs happen and this banking crisis will begin, I believe a lot of socialist freebies that you enjoy, income security, Medicaid, retirement for 401k, all these, the discussions will start on cutting all this socialist freebies out, because de-dollarization means that the rest of the world will be not paying your bills. So as much money that you print, that will come back to you in the form of inflation and interest rates. Whenever a government declares a freebie or any government expenditure, there are only two methods of recovering that expenditure. One is increase in interest rates, and second is increase in inflation, right? So increase in inflation means there is an excess supply of money and there are too less goods, too many notes chasing too less goods, which is why the price rise happens. So whatever now the printing of US dollar happens, or the electronic entries with the CBDC, that is a digital dollar, which will come up in the middle of this year. I think if those entries go beyond a limit, if they pivot beyond a limit, the Federal Reserve, then there will be very, very high inflation in the US economy. So the better option is to cut back all the socialist freebies, benefits that the Americans have been enjoying all these years, because now the rest of the world won't be paying any more of your bills by using dollar as the reserve currency. Now, one more question, that de-dollarization may take many, many years, because that is what the any economist or financial analyst will tell you. I am telling you, it is going to be very, very rapid, because it is US decision to do it, right? So mark my words, this is what is going to happen. And in any which case, whether BRICS currency becomes successful or it doesn't become successful, still de-dollarization will happen, because no countries are going to come back to the US dollar. If the BRICS currency fails, the countries have already transitioned to doing trade between each other's national currencies. So even if the BRICS currency fails, nobody is going to come back to the dollar anyways. So de-dollarization is 100% going to happen. As long as the BRICS currency becomes successful or not, that is something that we need to wait and see how in the August Africa summit you have the basic format. Then they will start the pilot transactions, and then we will realize how far it's going to move ahead. But as far as de-dollarization is concerned, it is 100% confirmed that it is going to happen. Nobody is coming back to the US dollar trade, which means that now whatever pivot or new printing happens, it is the Americans who will have to bear the inflation. So either you cut back your freebies, socialist freebies, or you stop the printing.
So very interesting. शायद इसीलिए वो लोग in advance they're planning a digital dollar so that people don't have to carry cash like Venezuela, for everything else they're doing. The impact on अभी Costco का बात सुन के तो मुझे बहुत दुख हुआ क्योंकि वहां से मैं बहुत खरीदता हूँ. So but for those who do not know, Costco is like a what do you call it, a bulk buying store where you can buy in large quantity. Those people do not know that. तो एक क्वेश्चन आता है फिर कि जो मिलिट्री स्ट्रेंथ है उस पर भी इफेक्ट होगा. और आजकल एक बलून उड़ रहा है पूरे अमेरिका में. अभी कांसस पहुंच जाएगा, आज रात को पहुंच चुका होगा, अभी क्रॉस कर रहा होगा कैंसस. बड़ा स्ट्रेटेजिकली मूव किया वो बलून. वो अलास्का से आया नीचे सीधा जैसे फिर फॉलोइंग ए टेरिटरी, और न्यूक्लियर साइट्स के ऊपर से होता हुआ निकल रहा है. और चाइनीज गवर्नमेंट ने भी ऑफिशियली एक्नॉलेज किया कि एक स्ट्रे बलून है जो घूम रहा है ऐसा. So, but the trajectory is very interesting. Went up to Russia, Bering Strait. ऐसा लग रहा था जैसे कोई उसे उड़ा रहा है अच्छी तरह. So this is going on and nobody is shooting it down. उसका क्या secret है?
So this is the first time we are seeing American economy so weak, American administration so weak, and there is absolutely no response. I mean, it's just unbelievable that an unidentified object is coming. Some countries also claiming that maybe it's by mistake. That's what they're saying. But even if it is by mistake, I mean, what is the response? There has been absolutely no response. And there is no deterrence even. So I think it's really shocking to see the Chinese are able to do this on an American, airspace. And this is not surprising. This is something like India misfired BrahMos into Pakistan. So I think a lot of image that the Pakistan army or the US military had created, there is a big cut to that image, which this kind of an event that has happened. So it's very surprising. And at this point in time, when we see a lot of defense movements going on around, wherein India has offered customized training to the Royal Cambodian Army. Now, Cambodia is a known China ally. Besides that, today there is a declaration that there will be UAE, India, and France trilateral dialogue which is going to begin. Now, I'm not surprised because I have already predicted that the UAE and Indian Air Force are basically going to combine or become kind of an interoperable or interexchangeable in a way that, UAE is going to buy Rafales, which India already bought. And each of those Rafales came to India after landing in UAE, not just landing, the UAE Air Force did their mid-air refueling as well. So I see a synergy coming up between India and UAE in a way where I have predicted that both the Air Force are going to become interoperable and interexchangeable, which means the defense budget is now, it's can be cut in that sense. I mean, if you are going to share an Air Force kind of a combat strategy in that sense. So I see big moves over here. There is also, a Sri Lanka-India defense dialogue, which is going to begin. And I see we are moving towards a strategy where the American defense tech companies are now willing to come down and settle in India, because now India is going to be a big market for it, because we are looking at a net security provision from Saudi Arabia till Laos, Cambodia by 2047. This is what our target is as a geopolitical hub for the Indian subcontinent. We want these small nations to rather focus on human development and economic prosperity rather than waste money on defense spending, which means a lot of moves going on here, and some of these US defense tech companies are certainly going to settle here. One of the shocking moves is about General Electric moving a petition in the US government that we want to do the engine technology in India and also transfer the tech. So I see Boeing, Airbus, Raytheon, all of these one by one, Lockheed Martin, I see by 2030 all will be settled in India.
क्या उनका शेयर अभी खरीद सकते हैं?
Defense shares, yes.
So yes, viewers, you got the answer. Now you can decide now. So one question comes in again is that the if you look at one thing I really like about analysis is that because everything in the world is about artha sanchayan, like Gita says, Asura always focus on that. धर्म में विश्वास नहीं होता, लेकिन the artha sanchayan, how much they can collect and how much others can go down. So in the recent happenings which has happened is the India becoming a G20, SCO, many things together. And India is also becoming the leader of the global south. So the global south, which was non-aligned movement in the beginning, now it is called global south. The countries like Australia dropping Prince Charles from the notes from Queen Elizabeth. And does it begin a movement towards the natives coming to the fore? Natives in the sense, the original people of the land. In India and even Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh, the original people are the Hindus by faith. And everyone was displaced. So is this movement going to become stronger gradually as the local cultural economies become stronger?
So a lot of traditional way of living is going to come back as this economic crisis comes in the West, which is exactly why you see when you mentioned Australia removing the British symbols from its currency, you need to observe two more sequence of events in this. One is the United Kingdom offered India to add to AUKUS grouping, which it had exclusively created for Anglo-Saxon countries, that is UK, US, and Australia. UK offered India to a membership in that particular grouping. Now, AUKUS was actually formed immediately after Quad. So India was already with that grouping in the Quad. UK sabotaged that Quad grouping and created AUKUS specifically for the Anglo-Saxon countries, because all of these are British or the European descent nations. And now Australia signed the free trade agreement with India, and after that removed the British symbols from its currency. So you understand where the movement is going. So it's very interesting. So a lot of, as you said, a lot of indigenous and traditional influence now taking over the foreign influences within countries, which is exactly why, you'll see the free trade agreements. Now, the free trade agreement of India with UK is stuck because there was one recent attack, which was BBC documentary on our Prime Minister, which again derailed the FTA. Before that, one of the minister passed some comments on Indians, derailed the FTA. Before that, under Boris Johnson, there was a delegation which was coming to India for discussing FTA, and suddenly they propped up India-Russia relations in the agenda, derailed the FTA. So I can understand when India is going to have FTA with UK, Canada, and Australia, all three, it's going to be very, very difficult for US to see itself as a global power. It's going to be very, very difficult, which is exactly why I see that, US will try to sabotage the FTAs with UK and Canada. But Australian Parliament has already signed it, approved it. And as you see that the moves that symbolic moves that UK had to ask India to join AUKUS, and Australia removed the British symbols from the currency. These moves speak what they are volumes. It speaks volumes of what is happening.
So World Economic Forum, we all know, is viewed as a public enemy but government friend in the West. Public enemy but government friend. So will there be an alternative WEF? Because the guy over there, I feel him like straight coming out of the Hollywood movie, where he is trying to imagine things and talk about a new world order or global world order. Or will it be the new world order dominated by Indian culture, yoga? And I might visualize Sadhguru becoming the guru of World Economic Forum, is funnily I'm saying. So what do you see? What do you see? Any new alternative to WEF from the Indian side or from the Asian side?
So, Aditya I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories moving around about WEF, World Economic Forum, and especially that guy, Klaus Schwab. Now, one thing we need to understand that the Western economies are facing the moment of truth this year and the next year and moving forward, because a lot of actual manufacturing and real production was shifted out to Asia and Gulf. So it's going to pain the Western economies. So I can understand that they require a reset of a very different kind. And, the movement from here is going to be a little bit of a downward movement for the Western countries. So when people like Klaus Schwab or World Economic Forum, when they come up with these kind of ideas which they are trying to discuss, sometimes it is linked with depopulation and etc kind of theories. I believe that none of the Asian giants, that is Russia, India and China, will fall into or align with this kind of theories, even if these theories are actually something under consideration. Because strategic autonomy has been a Hindu family virtue. So I do not believe that India or Russia would certainly align to this kind of ideas of making, insects and bugs as food items, or depopulation, or injecting with some kind of enzymes and chips in human bodies. I think these are the kind of theories which are floating around. So I believe that if anybody is going to be vulnerable to this kind of ideas, it would be Western economies. I don't think any of the Asian countries would allow with their people this kind of stuff.
Anyway, their immunity is very low. Spice trade was done to increase their immunity. So they have done everything possible, and now they're consuming lithium-ion batteries. So this is a very different thing. So interestingly, you mentioned the word Hindu. India was ridiculed during the Congress governments of India, Hindu rate of growth, by some prominent politicians. Now the Hindus are actually ruling since 2014, and India has shown a reverse Hindu rate of growth, and Islamic rate of growth has gone down to the dustbins, including UAE, which is following an Indian model. So what will you say the real Hindu rate of growth here today?
So, Aditya ji, a lot of this has to do with the awakening of the people towards its own history. Now, when we say, I'm writing this second book, which is going to cover Sanatan Economics in detail. When we talk about, waking up to this traditional ways of life, you realize that in Sanatan Economics, there's a lot of wisdom about how to go about with all the aspects of life, including the economic part. So if I'm to give some of the instances, like we celebrate the festival of Dhanteras. Now, the Shubh and Labh stickers that we stick, darwaze ke bahar jo hum lagate hain, Shubh aur Labh. So we are basically trying to say that only ethical profits are allowed to enter my house, right? So we do not need the artificial courses on business ethics from the Western Western templates in this country, because this is the only civilization which celebrates ethical profits as a community festival. So what are you going to teach us, right? Similarly, when you talk about, say, social welfare. Now, this is the country which believes in the idea of Atithi Devo Bhava. When we say Atithi, it means a person who's going to enter your house without giving you a tithi, which means he's not going to give his date and time. He's going to come empty stomach. You are going to feed him, and this is our idea of social welfare. Now, we do not need socialist freebies from the government. The government should not, put up a gun on our head, collect taxes, and then distribute freebies to and make these people entitled. So this is the kind of dharmic society that we were. Now, even if you look at the kind of role that the mandirs had, now even our acharyas and gurus, when they did viharas, that is how the word for the state of Bihar is derived from this viharas. So when our gurus traveled from one university to second university, they used to give vyakyans all through the route. So this was actually the faculty and student exchange programs in those days. This is what was stolen by the Western in the Western format now. So a lot of these things we need to dig up, and we need to come back to our own civilizational wisdom that we were. Now, even if you look at the kind of economics around the mandir ecosystem that goes around, every single Bhagwan requires some specific arpan, be it a food item or a fruit item or whatever. Now, all those food and fruit items are going to be automatically being preserved because of these traditions, which is why you see, with so much less land mass, India still maintains a huge amount of biodiversity, and not just biodiversity, even the cultural diversity. Whereas you will see the rest of the countries of the world, they have just, a binary system, a dull way of life, where there's cheap pleasure and all those kind of stuff. So everything is standardized, step 1, step 2, step 3. And that is not how a globalized or a country, a civilizational country should operate, right? So this is how, Sanatan Economics used to preserve the world and the biodiversity along. I have detailed out more in my second book on this, how we can, bridge back the current dumb status and bring back to that wisdom where we were. When we used to write on our account books, Shri Sava, on the top of it, what it meant was, I will not take profits more than 25% of the cost. Shri Sava means this. I mean, what can be a better scale of a bottom-up control over capitalism, right? So this was the kind of ancient wise society India was. So I think the rest of the world, when we talk about UAE or Saudi Arabia trying to connect back its links with the Indian subcontinent, it is but natural that Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, all these countries want to link back to the Indian subcontinent, because the capitalist and the communist economic theories are failing. They're collapsing. So they want something which is sustainable. And what is sustainable? Sanatan exactly means sustainable, right? So I'm not surprised with what is happening. I mean, it's just an entire circle which has come back to India.
One last question actually has come from the audience. Students are asking, like, will India, or when it comes up, treat us good when we have treated them bad, when it becomes a leader of the global world?
This is from America.
This is for the audience. Yes.
This is from America. Well, India will treat everyone well, as long as the intentions with which you operate with India are well, right? So I believe that I truly do believe that India and US can have a lot of synergy. I'm talking about the American population, not the state or the companies, right? So a lot of people to people synergy is certainly possible. And I believe that, many of the Indian diaspora will certainly want to shift back, or at least shift back their operations, or at least shift back their savings, because that is where even the wealth will be preserved, right? So when you see our bhagwans loaded with all kind of gold over themselves, you understand that the gold is the actual purchasing power of the currency, which is why Sanatan is Sanatan, right? That's the Sanatan economics. So whenever a currency loses, whenever the people loses faith in the financial systems and the currency, that is the exact point in time when they go to the banks, deposit all the notes, and collect physical gold in exchange to save themselves from the wealth wipeout or the purchasing power wipeout, which would happen in any given crisis, economic crisis. So I think a lot of ancient India wisdom will benefit a lot of Americans and the world.
Americans love India. Just to, of a general American, if you see, I mean, you will not see a single thing bad about India. Only thing, they mock India for its poverty, which is the worst thing to do. And I advise Indian Americans also not to mock anyone of the poverty of anyone else. And I'd advise anyone who is sensible. If you're rich in your own home and your behavior shows more than anything else. So thank you so much, Ankit, for coming on the show. और आज का show हिंदी English में था. People can reply. People who were things asking me to have Ankit speak in Hindi is done. So we have done that, and so do follow us on the playlist for Ankit. One more video is coming out on Monday or Tuesday, and then you can see that in there also you can hear Ankit. Thank you so much, Ankit, and thank you all the viewers. Namaste. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you.